How you doing, people? Welcome back to another ESO build video. Today is a brand new build to the channel called WOOF. This is a 1-bar Sorcerer tank build that is designed to be a werewolf in the Infinite Archive. Now, you can use this in other content, obviously, but there are a couple of things surrounding the ability to tank as a werewolf that might trip you up in some content, i.e. the long channel for a taunt, but the actual overall build can play any way you like. Again, is designed specifically for the Infinite Archive, so we can be very, very tanky, we can still taunt stuff, and we can apply a crap ton of status effects if need be. We can do damage, we can survive, we can aggro. It's very, very useful across the board, and it's going to help people that are struggling in there, especially if you are squishy. And especially if you want to take advantage of Werewolf in the first place, because lots of people love to play it, but they don't know how. This will help. So, we're going to go into all the details, obviously. If you want to look at the class guide for the Sorcerer and some side videos surrounding their changes along the way, these videos will help you. They're in the description below. Outside of that, I'm going to go into the skills, obviously, in detail, but not as much as I usually would because those videos now exist. First of all, however, we're going to go into the stats. And we're going to do this in 2 shifts. So, first of all, as a humanoid, as a non-werewolf, we are sitting on 15.2k max magicka, 49k max health, and 23.5k max stamina. Stam recovery and mag recovery are both roughly around just under 1.5, so 1.349 for the stam and 1.463 for magicka. Health recovery is so-so. Crit chance is not too bad, we're not far off the 25% mark, and our pen and weapon and spell damage are actually quite high. Our resistances are actually capped at the moment because we do have major and minor resolve at the same time as really healthy resistance bonuses from our armor. So we're good there on pretty much all fronts. The weapon and spell damage does actually go up, so we can effectively do a decent amount of damage rather than not actually stacking into that stat as a tank. Now, we're using all of our attributes into our health, obviously, or putting them all into health, and we're using max health, max stamina food. Bear in mind, if you want to transform into a werewolf quickly, it does require you to generate ultimate, and the ultimate, which we'll come to in more detail later, is 240 on this particular setup. But if you change your food from flat max health, max stamina food, the really cheap stuff, to pack leader's bone broth and activate it, you will have less health, you will have less stamina, but what you can do is you can take advantage of a buff to werewolves. So as you can see, our stats are lower, but your ultimate is now cheaper. So it's 15 cheaper for this particular build. It does consider multiplicative effects when it comes to ulti reduction to cost. But while it's slotted, it's got loads of extra bonuses. We'll come on into that later. That is the way to do it cheaper. So transform into the werewolf and it's nice and cheap, and then swap your food to the cheap stuff if you want to. You're going to get ulti really, really quick in Infinite Archive anyway, and you're going to maintain werewolf almost indefinitely as long as you go through the rounds nice and quickly. And I don't mean kill them fast. I mean get through that portal and start the next round. As long as you do that, it's pretty much infinite anyway. But just in case you want it cheaper, that food does help. But again, the flat stat increase, because they both give the same amount, you will get more from the blue stuff. Now, when it comes to the werewolf side of things, we'll activate this. Yes, I'll go over passives and reasons why later, but we are sitting on a healthy 13k magicka, not 15, 27.7k stamina, not 23, and 53.5k maximum health. Our resistances did go down by 3k because we lost minor resolve, but you can gain that in the Infinite Archive if you take the pet bonus twice. Now, we are going to go over all this stuff in detail as we go through, but as you can see, we do have inflated stats. Even our weapon and spell damage has gone up mildly, and that will go up dramatically if we start using certain buffs and bonuses. Again, the only thing that has gone down is your resist, but you can plug it. So, if you want to turn off Werewolf, by the way, reactivate your ultimate. Most people don't actually know that. So, skills. This is for your more human form, let's say. Bound Aegis, this comes from your Daedric Summoning skill line. Last ability to unlock. Basically put it on your bar and leave it there. It gives you max magicka and minor resolve and minor protection at all times as long as it is visible. If you're werewolf, it is not visible. Bear that in mind. But if you activate it for the next 5 seconds, you will actually get 40% block mitigation. That is fucking insane. Keep that on your bar. Next up is Hardened Wards, same skill line. This was changed a long time ago, but there is a video in the description explaining it. This was basically a damage shield that only scaled off of your maximum magicka, but it is capped at your maximum health percentage. This is capped at the health percentage still, 72% of it, but it will scale off of your highest of magicka or health. Our health is huge. We have just under 50k as a humanoid, so our damage shield is massive, and that can be inflated with stats for healing received and healing done as well. So that is our main heal. No, I don't recommend the pet. There are obviously favorites out there for people. They like to use the Clan Fear. Some people like to use other stuff. This is not on the build. Use the damage shield. It will protect you and heal you at the same time. It makes a big difference for this particular setup. Next up is Pierce Armor, of course, the Sword and Board skill line, or Sword and Shield. Basically, it's your taunt. Activate it on target. It will hold it for 15 seconds. It will hit only you unless its mechanics stray from that. This will also apply debuff, which is minor breach and major breach, so almost 9,000 resistances removed from the target there, so your group or you can hit it harder. Maintain taunt at all time. If you are a tank, don't spam it, obviously, but do overlap it. If you leave it till it's got 1 second left, you're a failed tank. It might stun you, you fall over, it's going to punch everybody. Overlap it at a healthy amount, so around 12 to 13 seconds at maximum. Yes, you can do it every 10 or so if you really want to, but around the 12-second mark is usually quite safe. Leashing Throw. Yes, we took advantage of the scribing system. You do not have to. If you don't have Gold Road and you don't want to take advantage of the skill, you don't have to do so. You can just use Silver Leash from the Fighters Guild skill line as your pull. But if you do have access to it, we've made this skill. So what you need to do is go to the scribing thingy. And you need to get Shield Throw unlocked. Put Pull, which will pull the enemy in and taunt them. Put Heal, so you've got a heal from pulling, which is scaled off of your maximum health, so the more health the better. And we're using Vitality, which means after you pull something, all of your heals will be stronger. Your healing received is increased, which means your damage shield and your root ability will both be more effective. And will this skill. So all you have to do is fire it. That one pulls to you, that one pulls to you, that one pulls to you. Spoiler there with sets. And you will heal off of each one and boost the strength of your damage shield, which is 10k heal all the time. But if you crit it, if you're lucky, it's a 15.2. That is pretty good, especially considering you've got a 22 to 23k damage shield already. Yes, that does stack with buffs and bonuses in the Infinite Archive, so you can be very strong. Now, next up is obviously your root ability. This is from the Daedric Summoning skill line. Oh, no, it's not. This is from the Dark Magic skill line. Second ability to unlock starts off as Encase, morph it to Shatter in Spines. This will immobilize enemies in front of you, and then after 4 seconds it will pop and do damage to enemies that were encased. Now, even if they can't be immobilized, this will still do damage, and initially it actually does a heal as well because of our passives, which we're coming to in a moment. Enemies that are hit are affected with Major Maim, reducing their damage done by 10%, and this is not capped. As you can see here, all the enemies will be affected, and then 3, 2, 1, pop. They will take magic damage. Brilliant. So you do magic damage and you maim all targets at the same time as giving yourself a hefty heal, which can stack with Major Vitality, which comes from this. Bear in mind that Major Vitality doesn't just affect your heals, it affects your damage shield as well. So yes, we've got a 25k shield. Hopefully that helps you understand that. Now we're going to go into the Werewolf skills. Obviously there are 5 skills to unlock, but which morphs should you take? So first of all, we've deliberately taken advantage of the Pack Leader Ultimate Transformation, or Morph, which turns into a White Wolf with 2 pets. Yes, they're mega. Now the skills we've got: Pounce, Hersine's Bounty, Roar, Piercing Howl, and Infectious Claws. We have deliberately taken these morphs, so if you deviate from this, you are going to get very different effects. Now, first of all, just for being in this form, we will fear enemies straight away for 3 seconds, which is quite nice. It gives us some time to recover. And while transformed, you have a maximum stamina increase of 30%. You take 10% less damage at all times, and you have 2 Dire Wolves. You also grant yourself and nearby members minor courage, increasing their weapon and spell damage. Yes, including you. And while slotted, your stamina recovery is increased. Now, the shiny stuff. These have all been morphed. Brutal Pounce allows you to jump. It's a gap closer. You do bleed damage, applying hemorrhage status effect to all enemies. Now that is a short duration status effect, but if you stack it 3 times, it's stronger and stronger and stronger, and it maxes out. So you can hit this multiple times. Now, what you also have to consider is this does put a bleed on the targets, and the lower their health, the more damage it does. But if you activate this again and again and again, you'll stack it up to 6 times, and you can end up with 600 extra weapon and spell damage. If you maintain this as a kind of AoE spammable buff and debuff, this can be very strong. But above all, this is your gap closer. One of the sets we're using is going to take a huge advantage of this, and it's something that's missing for the werewolf. The werewolf can't pull. We've covered that. Hersine's Fortitude is the morph you want for the heal. Massive heal. And if you are already full health, you get back 3k stamina. So this is your resource filler and big heal. And it scales, again, listen carefully, off of maximum health. The more health, the better. You also gain minor endurance and minor fortitude, increasing your health and stamina recovery. which stacks alongside Major, which comes from our potion. So we've got really high health and stamina recovery there. And also, while slotted, you gain Major Brutality and Major Sorcery at all times, so our weapon and spell damage is up. Deafened Roar, this particular morph actually fears enemies for 4 seconds and knocks them off balance. Even if they can't be feared, they're still knocked off balance, by the way. And it applies Major Breach and Minor Maim, reducing their physical and spell resistance and the amount of damage they can do by 5%. Now, as the humanoid version, we've got Major Maim. As the werewolf, we've got Minor, but it's still a debuff nonetheless, and that breach is very, very important. And just bear in mind, of course, this particular skill, if you heavy attack, you will actually taunt the enemy. Heavy attacks are fairly slow, but you do actually have an active taunt you can control. You will have to be very careful with this if you're taking a heavy attack from something, but you can control aggro. It's not as quick as a stab or a range taunt or a chain that other people can utilize if they're not a wolf, but it is a werewolf taunt. The major protection really does help as well. We should go back into werewolf skills because my werewolf actually ran out. As you can see there, I was werewolf for a long time without doing a damn thing. So, the Howl of Despair will do single target physical damage to the targets, which is quite nice. And enemies who are terrified, i.e. feared, will take more damage from this attack. That's not necessarily that important because we don't do too much damage versus an actual DPS, but it can be helpful to understand how that works in conjunction with this. Now, when you activate it, you also release a synergy that you or an ally targeting the enemy can activate, which will give you a Feeding Frenzy, which grants Empower and Minor Force. So that can help your group have very, very powerful heavy attacks, or you, and really good crit damage at the same time. So if you're solo, brilliant. If you're not, your group just got buffed. Now, also bear in mind we have got one more skill here, which can be used as a healing skill for damage over time and then heals in return. We've deliberately not chosen that one. We've got massive hemorrhage status here. If you get focused efforts, you know how that works. And here, if we do damage, we'll hit multiple targets with disease damage, and each one will have a 20-second damage over time applied to them. So they're all dotted now. At the same time, enemies will be hit with Major Defile for 4 seconds, reducing their healing received. So that's really nice for Brewmasters and such. And enemies hit by any part of the ability are affected with Disease Status Effect. Note that this can apply once per tick. So if you see this... wrong skill. Let's go Werewolf first. Get rid of those. All the enemies will be hit, all of them will have damage over time on them, and all of them will hit disease status effects each time. If I apply this once, watch the green goo or the brown goo around them. It applies constantly, over and over and over and over. Every single tick can reapply that status. You've got full control of it. At the same time as having this bleed on all targets as well. You can see where this is going. You've got a lot of damage over time. You've got a lot of status firing at once. Now, on dummies, that doesn't look too great, but if you get focused efforts inside the Infinite Archive, that is a mess. But bear in mind, there is a status video on the channel explaining how that all works and why disease is so important and why there's not much of it in the game. It's technically a small bomb per proc. Yes, each disease status effect can pop in area of effect as well as hitting the single target. All of those had one each one shot each other. Very, very powerful indeed. Now, we're going to go into the passives, obviously, so you can understand what passives are useful and what are not. And some are useful as a humanoid and some are useful as a werewolf. I know you can argue werewolf is humanoid-ish, but it's a dog. Anyway, so this reduces the health, magic, and stamina cost of non-core combat abilities. Reduction to cost. Let's go. When you cast a dark magic ability, you heal, which is why we heal off of our root ability. Our immobilization skill here actually heals us. If you use the throw first, it heals for more. Nice and simple. So you do want to get these passives. After blocking an attack, your next health, magic, or stamina cost ability are cheaper. Werewolf abilities are expensive. These two abilities help get the cost down, and reduction to cost again if you block first. When you cast a dark magic ability, you grant minor prophecy for you and your group. So yes, you get a spell crit rating increase for casting your immobilization as well. So these are all useful for your human form, and 2 of them are not useful for your werewolf form. You restore 300 magical or stamina when one of your non-ultimate Daedric summoning abilities end. So if you cast Bound Aegis or the damage shield, you will get resources back after it finishes, but it's dictated by the resource ability cost. So it's going to be magic either way for those. Reduce the cost of ultimates. That gets our werewolf cost down. It's bloody expensive. If you have this, it's much cheaper. Increases your health and stamina recovery while you have a Daedric Summon ability slotted. We actually have 2. It doesn't give us 2 stacks, it only gives us 1, but it does stack with our potion, which is really, really nice. Increases your maximum health by 10% if you have a pet active, and increases your magicka and stamina if not. So, we're in the stage of if not. As the tanky human version, we have no pet, so our flat resources are higher. And we can take advantage of Hardened Ward's heal. Remember, that heal doesn't work if you have a pet. So we're deliberately not using a pet right now. Now, when you are the werewolf, we're obviously not using the Hardened Ward, so we don't need to worry about the heal or the shield. When we are the werewolf, we are the pack leader, which does have 2 pets. Read very carefully. If you have pets or a pet active, you have more health. So as a werewolf, with that bonus, as a sorcerer, we are actually chunkier. Now, you can argue that you get 10% more health from minor toughness than a warden. Bear in mind, minor toughness can stack on top of this. So you are actually stronger than a warden would be health-wise. You're even higher than a necro would be health-wise because of those 2 pets. It's very, very useful. Storm Calling, of course, is very important. Increased mag recovery, we're going to need that so we can take advantage of our heals and our damage shields and all that good stuff. Increase your physical and shock damage. Yes, we're doing physical damage as a werewolf outside of bleed and disease, so we are hitting harder than other classes in that respect. And increases your damage done against enemies by 1% for every 10% current health they have. This is explained in the class guide, but basically at the beginning of the fight, you do more damage. At the end of the fight, you still do 1% more damage than everybody else, but it goes down and down and down throughout. So you have high burst. Increase your weapon and spell damage for sorcerer abilities on the bar. This is not important as a werewolf, but as a tank, of course, we've got some of these bonuses. Sword and board, get every single one of these. I shouldn't have to go through these in too much detail because they're quite obvious, but you reduce the cost of your abilities, you reduce the cost of blocking, you increase the weapon and spell damage for these abilities as well, and the amount of damage you can block, you increase your bash damage and reduction to cost, you increase the amount of damage you can block from projectiles, and reduces the movement speed penalty that you get for holding block because you move slower. These only apply during your human state when you have a sword and board active. Your weapon passives do not, I repeat, do not carry over to werewolf. They're not there. Your glyphs can still proc, but your weapons do not count as their passives. And that is very important to note because this block bonus here, this 20% reduction to damage taken when you block, doesn't apply as a werewolf, which is why we took advantage of a very particular champion point slottable to allow us to maintain that buff indefinitely and to make us more tankier when we're not a werewolf. 6 heavy pieces will give us extra health, health recovery, resistances, resources back when we do actually get hit, and of course we gain healing received bonuses. Now the medium stuff, we've actually got 1 because one of the set pieces happens to be medium. It's not a massive bonus to the overall build, but it is a minor one regardless, and the small passives do make the difference. So we've got extra movement speed, reduction to dodge roll cost, all that good stuff just for the 1 medium. Again, on the shoulder, you can change that to another weight if you really want to, but if you have the Undaunted passive to get yourself extra magicka and stamina, you won't get any extra health because you took 1 off to replace it, and you won't benefit from the resistance bonuses we get here, so you're actually going to dip a little bit in that area, so it's not going to be really worth it. So 6-1 is absolutely fine. Now, werewolf passives are obviously quite important. If there's a body on the ground and you eat it, you will get health back. So if you're in a position where there's loads of enemies miles away and they're not hitting you at the moment, you can have a quick munch, go for it. This will increase your movement speed and return from stamina. If you do a heavy attack, you get absolutely loads back, so make sure you take advantage of that. Yes, it stacks with your heavy armor passives. When you deal damage, the duration of your werewolf transformation is increased by 4 seconds and can happen once every 5. Bear in mind, we have a reduction to how fast our werewolf fades due to the way that we're set up, obviously the morph, and this stacks on top of that, so you can maintain it almost forever. As long as each round that you go through the portal, you actually go through and get started instead of hanging around talking and chatting shit, you will keep werewolf all the way through. If not, good job, we've got cheap ultis. Increases weapon and spell damage for being a werewolf, and you get major resolve all the time. Bear in mind, we don't really need that because we're using 1 bar setup anyway, and we've got it on the ring, but it's still nice nonetheless if you weren't to use that. And of course, reduce the cost of remaining in your werewolf transformation by 20% for each transformed werewolf or direwolf in your group, including yourself, up to 80%. So you are a werewolf, transformed, 20%. You have 2 direwolves, 20%, 20%, we're now at 60. We can almost guarantee full uptime with this, but if you have 1 more werewolf in your group, that's you done. That's your maximum amount of that. And all you have to do to maintain your werewolf, once it's active, is fight. As you can see here, watch the bar underneath my magical bar. There's a tiny blue bar there. As long as you're hitting stuff, you are good. It's not going to run out. And if it does start to run out, that devour ability you can do where you can actually chew on a body on the ground, that actually gives you seconds back on your werewolf, so you can actually up the bar again and again and again. As long as you're in the fight all the time doing damage, you won't run out. Even ticking down now, it's going slowly, 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 slowly. It is really not hard to maintain. And again, if you've got another werewolf in your group, it's even longer. We're going to jump this pack of enemies real quick, as you can see the bar gradually going down. Imagine there's a load screen. I don't know what there is. I don't know why you're taking time. You might even be able to ninja pee, but it's back up again. Almost impossible to run out as long as you're actually playing. Now, Fighters Guild is useless for us unless, of course, using Silver Bolts, which you can morph to Silver Leash if you don't have the scribing system unlocked. So that's the only thing you really need that for. Mage Guild, no. Psijic, no. Thieves Guild, no. Undaunted, yes. This will restore your resources if you take a synergy. Simple as that. 4% for all of them. And this gives you 2% increased max resources for all three stats, depending on your armor types. Heavy and medium is what we're wearing, so we've got 4%. Don't chase the light for the 6% because you'll lose minor passives and it will make a difference. Imperial. Bear in mind, this is a choice. You don't have to do this. You can be whatever you want. But we have the highest max health bonus in the game, highest max stamina bonus in the game, which another race does share. And we have a reduction to cost for all abilities, including our ultimate. So we get to werewolf quicker and our abilities are cheaper. Overall, that's a win button. But if you want to, there are other races in the game. You can choose anything you like. I would highly recommend, if you are not able to use Imperial even, to use an Orc. Orc are fast. They have a really good health bonus. They have a really good stand bonus. They have a nice weapon and spell damage bonus. And they heal once every 4 seconds for doing damage. So Imperial or Orc are very good choices if you want to take advantage of minor stats and benefits to their race. But if you want to use any other race in the game, you can. There's nothing wrong with it. You won't massively negatively impact the build, and you'll still be able to do absolutely everything as long as you know what you're doing. Alchemy. Get medicinal use tripods, and stop leaving them there doing nothing. Don't activate a tripod just because your resources are low. That is a very inefficient way to use your potions. Use them all the time. They don't just have 3 resources being given back to you. They have 3 resource recovery bonuses. Those 3 recovery bonuses, Major Fortitude, Major Intellect, and Major Endurance, are key to maintaining your bars. If you make your car run out of fuel, you have to go running down to the petrol station to come fill it up again. But if you fill it up along the way, you can maintain it for longer journeys. Quite simple. Keep your potions running at all times and they'll be more effective. Now, the shiny stuff, the gear. This is going to work for both the human version and the werewolf version combined very, very well, and it's been chosen carefully to make sure that this functions as intended. So, we've got Rush of Agony first of all on the sword and board, and then we've got 2 jewelry pieces of it, and then 1 body piece, which is the belt, being that the belt is the lowest resistance armor piece available. So we're taking our lesser impactful weight and putting it on the belt. Stam recovery, weapon and spell damage, and offensive pen. And when you deal damage with a blink or charge ability or a pull ability, you pull the whole group in front of you and do a pop of damage in area of effect. This is scaled off your weapon and spell damage as far as the damage is concerned, but it will pull them in nonetheless. Now, they have to be within 12 meters, and the damage is done within 7, so it will kind of pop once they get there. You do not, read this carefully before anyone goes mental about any other potential pull abilities, you do not apply CC. So you can still stun enemies from your group abilities or whatever it is you're using. If you change stuff, you can still stun them after they're pulled in. That is the usual issue that people have with pull abilities when it comes to sets. So if you are a werewolf and you fear people, you can still stun them. Listen carefully. As the human version, we pull them and immobilize. As the werewolf, we pull them and stun them. Nothing is a negative. It's very important that you understand this. And yes, that can be applied once every 8 seconds. Now, how do we do this with this? This is a pull. That pulls 1 enemy, that pulls them all. Technically, it'll pull 6, but that is really bloody handy for crowd control, especially on a build that utilizes 1 bar. Now, it's really, really easy to do. And on the werewolf, the pounce, that is your gap closer. That is how you do it with the werewolf. Really, really simple stuff. And just to demonstrate it, we will obviously make sure it makes sense. You may have seen this earlier. As you can see, we no longer have a pull or immobilize ability. But if we take advantage of this, there's the pull, and there's the stun. Off balance on everybody. Technically, I pressed the wrong button first, but you get the idea. Off balance targets are the ones that would be stunned. Easy peasy. So that's one of your sets. The other one is obviously leeching. We're tanky as fuck. We've got loads of health. Health returned, obviously, from heals, so you can increase healing taken or healing received. And health again. And when you take damage, you summon a cloud of leech and poison under the target, which will do damage every 1 second. Yes, that can hit multiple targets at once, and every one damaged will heal you for 110% of the damage caused. So basically, get hit, get healed, and also hit others with a gap closer or a pull and pull them in. The ring obviously has got a crap ton of minor and major buffs on it. We all know what the one ring does, but if you haven't seen it already, there is a link on the website on how to farm this, where to get it from, and obviously all the buffs and bonuses that come from it and what they do. Now, the jewelry traits you want healthy on absolutely everything with weapon and spell damage with the mag recovery glyph. So that is basically Kuta, Ripora, and Makdiri to make sure you've got the mag recovery bonus there. The other one gives a stamina recovery instead. Everything on here is all health, reinforced on the head and the chest to get the most out of your maximum stats. Then we've got sturdy on absolutely everything else. You do not need divines, we're not going with that. Sturdy also on the shield, and you can take stamina or health depending on how comfortable you are. And then you've got a return glyph for stamina on the bar if you want on your defending weapon, but you can change that for absolutely anything. Crusher, weapon and spell damage increase, whatever you like. It's not infused anyway, so it is going to have a gap. Up to you. So, to go over that again, Rush of Agony on the weapon, 2 jewelry and a belt, leeching on everything else, and this is technically a flex slot. You can use it for whatever you want. It's a one-piece bonus anyway. We've taken advantage of some armor. You can go for mag recovery, health recovery, stamina recovery, extra health, up to you. Pick whatever you want. It's just a filler. So, champion points. Really simple stuff. These blue tree passives, these yellow or white ones, get every single one of them as soon as you can, including the status damage ones. They are really, really nice, or status chance ones, and weapon and spell damage ones. You don't need any slottables in this tree, but get the passive as soon as you can. Outside of that, you want to make sure you take advantage of your defenses, because we are a tank. Ironclad to reduce the damage you take, obviously. Then you've got Jeweler's Rebuff to reduce the amount of single target damage you take. Enduring Resolved for damage over time. And Unassailable for reduction to AoE. Do not get Bulwark. I know lots of people might be assuming that maybe if their character hasn't got the resistances they want, then they can fill this with this passive or this slottable. You cannot. Because as soon as you're werewolf, you're not holding a sword and shield anymore, this goes away. Don't use it. Red tree is quite straightforward. These 3 don't require any prerequisites, so get these as soon as possible. Extra armor, extra health, and of course recovery for all 3 stats. The rest of these passive bonuses get in your own time, but you are going to want to go towards this path here where you unlock Bracing Anchor. Yes, you'll be slightly slower, but we're fast anyway, and you will get 20% block mitigation at all times. The 20% block mitigation bonus that comes from Sword and Board is now available technically on your werewolf. But while you are on Sword and Board, this stacks with it. So it's very hard for you to die if you're blocking stuff. And alongside the 40% mitigation bonus you get from Bound Aegis, this can get silly. Green tree doesn't make a fucking difference. Treasure Hunter, sure, higher quality loot from chests if you really want to. Steed's Blessing makes you run faster between rounds if you're not fighting anything right now. And of course, liquid efficiency and your food basically makes this food last longer. If you're using blue stuff, it doesn't really matter. It's cheap as shit anyway. Potions, however, you are going to burn through these, and make sure that you do. If you're not burning through potions, you're playing wrong. You need to maintain them. But this will sometimes allow you to use one, and it won't actually consume it. So you got a free one. The rest of it, quality of life, doesn't matter. How do you play it? Well, quite simple, actually. You taunt the target. You pull them if they need to be pulled in, so you can pin them. And that's it. If you are in trouble, hit this and hold block so you get more mitigation. And if you need to heal, use shield. Technically speaking, you actually heal from each pull ability you do if you're using the scribed version. And you heal from rooting stuff anyway. So just for doing your job, just for maintaining taunts on stuff, pulling them in with a heal, pinning them with a heal, and damage shielding them with a heal, it's quite hard to die. Plus, leeching will be under them the whole time anyway, so you're borderline immortal. You're basically the Bobby build on crack. Now, the werewolf side of things, relatively simple as well. I'll make sure we activate this first. You do need to maintain aggro if you are going to be the active tank, but if you're just there for the sake of being a really, really chunky DPS, at least you've got a taunt on tap if you want to. And the way to apply that is not just a regular heavy attack, because that will not do it if you haven't got the correct skill, is to make sure you've got the skill unlocked. So if you do not have this particular morph and particular skill on your bar, Deafening Roar from Roar, it won't work. So yes, your heavy attacks taunt, but not without that being slotted. Apart from that, activate that to knock everyone off balance, to stun them, and to debuff them. In the meantime, your pull is tied to your pounce. So pounce first, stun second, slap them with claws. Apart from that, heal, maintain this as much as possible. So light attack, jump over and over, maintain your claws once every 20 seconds, stun them when you need to, single target stuff if you really want to, and heal if you're in trouble. Bear in mind again, if you're full health, every time you heal, you will put 3k into your stand bar. So, pounce, swipe, stun, and smack stuff. Really easy stuff. I guess you want to look at fashion now. Okay, we look mega anyway, let's go. So, we are using Balag's mask, so that's a monster mask there. We are using Lycosa's shoulders, so that's also another monster page. You can get both of those from the market if people are selling them, or keep an eye on the Crown store when those particular weapon styles go up for sale, because that is when the mask and shoulders are usually available. Also keep an eye on the Infinite Archive, because every week there is a weekly vendor and they might turn up there. The chest we're using is Thane of Falkreath. The hands, and I think the rest of it actually, the hands, the feet, and the legs are all Snowhawk Mage, and the belt is Yokuden. And then the hammer is Ashen Militia Mace, and we've also got Westweald Legion Shield. So he looks absolutely mega. Basically everything is black, and the silvery shiny things are a bit of a grey. Not necessarily any particular black, you can use whatever you want, but black and grey all the way through. So hopefully that helped, hopefully it wasn't too boring, hopefully you now understand how this particular build works. 1 bar tank for all content, specifically Infinite Archive if you can help it, but it will do everything. And then Werewolf, mostly for Infinite Archive. You can use it elsewhere, but you're going to get in trouble trying to taunt everything with a slow taunt. But Infinite Archive, you can get the big stuff and then just pin everything else down. Hope you have some fun with it. Tell me what you think in the comment section. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Have you built it? Have you not? And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.